This is SBR's Football Betting Daily.
What up, football fans? It is Friday, November 30th at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, which means it is time for the Audible. My name is Jimmy the Bag, and I'm sitting with, as always, the legend, Mr. Donnie Rightside. Donnie, how you feeling today?
I'm feeling good, man. I get it. A lot of good information came out today. Who's in, who's out, who's probably going to play, who's not. Weather conditions. It's all here right now in the Audible. Talked about it on Tuesday. Let it simmer all week long. And here we are on Friday. Let's talk it out. Let's have a great chat box and a great show as usual, Jimmy.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. We've seen a lot of market moves. We've got, as you said, a lot of injury information. And we have a lot of great cappers with us. Shout out to Adam, Brendo, Cumbo, Abba, Zabba, Vitalis in the house. Sean, Mick, Mikey T, my man Vegas Gun, Hal Abrahams, Nick O, Neil Frank, Greg 007, Ryan Gosling, Ski Prophet, Nick Dial. It just keeps getting Chris IG, Drew Barron getting better and better. But now, a couple things. One, unfortunately, we will not have the whale capper joining us, but Donnie and I promise to give you winners. We've been on a nice run. Hey, speaking of nice run, even though it's not a tremendous record, I got off to a very bad start, and with the help of Donnie, Whale Capper, and the Sharp Cappers in the chat, my record has improved drastically. Rafa, we got my NFL football record to throw up for transparency reasons, accountability reasons. There it is. There it is. Now, unlike my man Adam Friendo Cumbo, who made a video for Loshak in the Bag yesterday, I was not on the Cowboys, but I was not on the Saints. It was a Cowboys or nothing move, and I just didn't have the balls. We talked about the Cowboys throughout the show, and I just did not have the giant balls that our friend Adam Friendo Cumbo does. Had him on the money line and on the spread. Donnie, do you want to just touch on what happened last night? Saints, Cowboys, what you see about with these teams moving forward?
Yeah, we said it last week, a lot of it. That was a lot of points to give the Dallas Cowboys, and they were a little shortchanged early in the season, but that defense is really, really good. And how do you beat a really good offense? If you get organic pressure from your front four, which the Dallas Cowboys did. They have cornerbacks and defensive backs, very athletic. They slowed down Michael Thomas. And anytime you put pressure, doesn't matter how good your quarterback. If you can affect the pocket and move the quarterback off his spot, which Dallas did, that was very impressive. Now, moving forward, do we think Dallas Cowboys are going to be Super Bowl contenders like everybody's getting ahead of themselves? No. But Dallas Cowboys are a pretty good football team, especially on defense here in the NFL.
Yes, they are. Van Der Esch is an absolute monster, and Marinelli just gets the most out of everybody. I'm looking forward to break this down. Bill Butler talking about the Kareem Hunt video. We will get into that when we break down the Chiefs, but we have a lot of games to get to, Donnie, and I'm excited about getting this rolling. Let's start with Colts at Jaguars. Open Colts minus 2.5. Remember, all of the lines that I will be saying open that are Bet Online. I have a lot of respect for Bet Online trying to be the first to the market. Open Colts minus 2.5. On Tuesday, we had 4s and a halves, and a 5 was being hanging at Bovada. Friday, minus 4s across the board. Still a 5 at Bovada. Total opened up at 48.5. Tuesday, 47.5. Then 47s across the board today with just Pinnacle hanging that 47.5. Sean Mick saying what jersey you have on. I have the Costa Rican national jersey because I'm Costa Rican now, Sean. I've left all of Canada behind and focusing solely on my Costa Ricans. Let's get back to work here. Frank Reich has ruled out a few players. Ryan Kelly, their center, out with knee injury. Ali Cox with the calf injury, their tight end. Marlon Mack has one more step in concussion protocol. It's expected that he's going to be cleared to play. Reich is all hopeful that he will be cleared. Joe Haig will also be brought back to the 53-man roster. Eric Ebron will play in Week 13 against these Jaguars. Jalen Ramsey, Tayshaun Gibson, and Larentine McCray are among 7 players questionable for Sunday's game against Indianapolis. We've seen almost, a big chunk of it. Some teams handle it differently, and maybe Donnie can give us more insight on that, but generally, questionable players do end up in the lineup. Indianapolis pretty much delivered that knockout blow to the Jaguars on November 11th, 29-6. Now the Jaguars are losing and losing and losing. Luck has thrown 3 or more touchdown passes in 8 straight games. The Colts averaged 33 points in that span. Jaguars on a 7-game losing streak. Maroney has benched Blake Bortles. Cody Kessler is in. He's fired offensive coordinator Nathaniel Hackett, and Scott Milanovic is running the show. He was the quarterback's coach. Kessler is still looking for the first win as a starting quarterback in his career. He made 8 starts in 2016 with the Browns. He's been in one game this season. He went 21 for 30, 156 yards, 1 TD, 1 pick, 1 fumble, 4 sacks. Fournette is injured. When we broke this game down earlier in the week, Donnie, you were leaning towards the Colts, and you had me very interested in them. What has happened in the 3 days since?
Yeah, now you see Jalen Ramsey is going to be a game-time decision, with a knee injury questionable. There's not a lot to look forward to if you're the Jacksonville Jaguars. So a lot of these players, so to speak, Jimmy, make business decisions. Maybe my knee is a little bit tweaked there. I'm not going to risk it, for what? We're going to win another football game. Has no bearing. We're not going to the playoffs at this point. When you have the Indianapolis Colts with their eye on the prize, another win, try to get closer. Even if they don't win a division, they're right in smack dab in the middle of going after a wild card, playoff spot. T.Y. Hilton got upgraded today to active. Eric Ebron's going to play, which is really big. But both of these teams, Jimmy, a laundry list of injuries, both up and down. But the one thing that I can't get over, look, I know how Blake Bortles is bad. And usually road Blake Bortles is even worse. But it's a home game. You're going to Kessler. You fire your offensive coordinator. Some players maybe not putting it now on the line. I'm a little bit dinged up. If we really needed this game, Jimmy, we're going to play in this game. But somehow they don't need it. It's one of those games where I factor in, look, it's a square play just to go with the Indianapolis Colts, but the Colts are playing good football. I know the Colts coming into this game, they're going to give it their all. They're going to have a competent game plan. They're going to try to execute it. I'm not so sure what I'm getting from the Jacksonville Jaguars from a point spread perspective or even from just a competitive perspective. In this game, I'm probably going to pass all the way around, but I wouldn't be looking at Jacksonville, Jimmy, to say like, ooh, this is real sharp side, because there's a lot of red flags in this football game that I don't want to get in front of.
Yeah, I want absolutely nothing to do with the Jacksonville Jaguars. Hal Abraham says if Jalen Ramsey is out, Indy's a lock. Sean Mick says Ramsey is a quitter. Hal Abraham seconds that comment with Kessler sucks. Vitals laughs, saying never seen Kessler. Yes, Kessler is that bad. He's going to be a check down king in this spot. My man Elio Rodriguez joining us says I lean to the over 47. Can you trust the Jaguars to put up enough points to hit that over, Donnie?
That's the problem, Jimmy. Maybe Blake, and again, Blake Bortles isn't a great quarterback, but at least he's been there, done that. And when you think of the Indianapolis Colts defense, it's not like you're going to get a Dallas Cowboys type of effort, which you got last night, or they can really turn it on. They're not a great defense, and Indianapolis should be able to score points, because if we go back a couple weeks, they put up some points in that Jacksonville Jaguars Indianapolis Colts game, and you're only looking at a 47 and a half. But I can't go in and say, look, new coordinator, new quarterback, that equates points. I can't do it. So it's a hard one to put my head around, because I haven't seen enough. I know Kessler's not a great quarterback. I don't know who's calling the plays or what they're actually going to come out doing. And I do know that they're banged up on offense as is. No Leonard Fournette in this game, which he was a big piece of the game plan a couple weeks back. It's a tough one. So I'm going to pass all the way around this one. I wouldn't want to put anybody in the wrong direction, because I don't have a great feel for exactly what's going to take place here.
That makes a lot of sense. I think I will pull the trigger on the Colts. 4s across the board. I think I can handle a 4. Curious to hear what other people have to say, as we'll be breaking these games down all weekend. Donnie's got some very hot shows that are here on SBR on the weekend, as well as the right side of campus. And I'll be breaking down this game a little more on the late show of Loshak in the Bag. But the Colts seem very appealing. Very, very appealing. Don Regis says Colts playing Houston the following week. That's on a Thursday. I think they might just do enough. Oh, no, sorry. Jacksonville's on the Thursday. Excuse me. Colts playing Houston the following week. I think they might just do enough to get the win. That's an interesting look on it. And that makes a lot of sense after hearing Donnie not really wanting to pull the trigger on the Colts. Maybe they just want to do enough to win and get out healthy. Tom Marino saying Bortles took chances, turned the ball over, was a good over quarterback. Jacksonville will likely be more conservative with Kessler. Yes, I'm not going to make a move on the over. I'm not going to make a move on the over. Actually, the more we talk about, I guess the Ramsey issue is a big deal. I guess you can't really take the under unless you know Ramsey's going to be in the lineup. A tricky spot.
Yeah, and that helps. Yeah, if he plays, it helps. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a tricky spot, but it seems like it's sort of a Colts or nothing spot. Anthony Stevens says maybe buy it down to -3. Brian Watson says, Jimmy Boy, you're a busy guy. Oh, yes. Thank you, Brian Watson. Much love, man. You guys, I tell you what, there's times where I'm like, God, I'm tired and stressed, but it's you guys, the chat. You consistently give us energy with your great insights, your humor, and we thank you guys so much, because if this was just Donnie and I doing a show right now, I'd be talking about how tired I am. But having you guys makes me want to go. So let's keep rolling, gentlemen. Let's keep flying through this card here. We have the Ravens at Falcons. There were two plays I was interested after our Tuesday breakdown. That was the Falcons and the under, and the market understood that the Falcons were the play. And it was another spot where maybe being overwhelmed with too many sports, not focusing solely on football, had something to do with me not pulling the trigger on the Falcons earlier. It opened Ravens -2.5. On Tuesday, we had pick'ems and -1s for the Ravens. Now the Falcons are favorites at 1 or -1.5. The total opened at 49. On Tuesday, we had 49 and 48, and that's gone up a little bit. Friday, we had 49.5 across the board. Falcons at home with extra rest. Flacco, doubtful, probably won't be in the lineup. Looks like we're going to see Lamar Jackson. He rushed for 190 yards over the last 2 weeks. On Tuesday, I didn't think Gus Edwards was going to play. It looks like he will play. Baltimore has risen from 27th to 11th in rushing. This rushing attack, we talked all about it. Get Alex Collins out of there, and now Lamar Jackson in there with Gus Edwards. They are rolling. Over the past 2 games, the Ravens have run for more than 200 yards, dominated time of possession. Baltimore has the league's #1 overall defense. But they just finished with the Bengals and Raiders. They will find a much tougher spot here. Donnie, you talked on Tuesday. You thought Deion Jones was going to be ready to go. He is a full go. Dan Quinn said Jones won't be on a specialized snap count. Baltimore remains in playoff contention, and the Falcons have lost 3 straight and are not in playoff contention. They rushed for a pitiful 26 yards last week with Matt Ryan getting 16 of them. Now they go up against the Baltimore defense, which ranks first against the rush in the NFL. Supposedly, Quinn focused on the offensive line and the running game all week long, but we know how Atlanta rolls. It's with Julio Jones, Mohamed Sanu, Calvin Ridley, and Austin Hooper. Now we're expecting to see Tevin Coleman catching passes on the sides in the running attack. Will it be there or will it not be there? And I'm also very interested in what you have to say, Donnie, about this total, because after breaking it down, I was leaning towards the under, and we've seen that total be bet up to 49.5. Donnie, Ravens at Falcons.
Yeah, if you take a look at the Falcons, let's just look at the last 5-game perspective. You do end up beating the New York Giants, and you wallop the Washington Redskins. But the last 3 games, they do have 3 straight losers. On the road at Cleveland, all of a sudden, we don't know where Cleveland's going to end up at the end of the year, but not the worst case scenario. Cleveland Browns finally get off the schneid win. I mean, Cleveland looks like they're actually a formidable team and putting together some pretty good efforts out there. And then how about losing to the Dallas Cowboys on a late field goal at the gun, 22-19? How about losing at the New Orleans Saints? They're not that bad of losses when you actually look at it. And now you get the old homage saying, I'm going to take a rookie quarterback. We're going to go on the road versus a team theoretically that has a good offense, going to put up points. So I just can't run around here and make maybe a play or two and beat a decent football team on the road, or at least a decent offense. And Jimmy, you hit it right on the head. Isn't it a great time that you're playing in a dome? Now, look, Lamar Jackson's going to be fast. He's going to be on turf. But this Atlanta defense is built for speed. And, getting back one of the fastest linebackers in the NFL just in the nick of time to show up and say, you know what? I can spy now if I'm the Atlanta Falcons. And what are you looking forward to getting beat deep? Because we talked about early in the season when you see the Tampa Bays of the world and the New Orleans of the world going deep and vertical and beating this team. It's not what Lamar Jackson does. They're going to try to keep it on the ground. They have a couple running backs for the Baltimore Ravens who can do that, but all of a sudden, that's a laundry list, injury list there for the Baltimore Ravens. Banged up on the offensive line, banged up at the running back position, a quarterback that doesn't throw all that well. And look, he did exactly what he was supposed to do, Jimmy, the last 2 weeks. Beat 2 bad football teams at home, because all the Ravens want to do is keep chalking up the wins. But now you're going to look at this football game and not tell Lamar Jackson out here, hey, you actually have to go out and win this football game on the road. We can't have you 12 of 21 for 130 and you run 26 times. You're going to end up getting beat by the Atlanta Falcons. He's going to have to throw them to a victory first time on the road. I'm not sure he can do it. I think there's a lot of value here on Atlanta for the specific fact, Jimmy. They got beat up pretty bad at Cleveland, but that's on the road as a dome team after back-to-back road games. And then you played the Dallas Cowboys and the New Orleans Saints. Tough run. I think they can pick up the victory here. I like Atlanta here.
I like them too. How do you compare Atlanta's game here versus Baltimore to the game against the Cowboys? When we broke down that game, I was pretty high on the Falcons. I thought, wow, watch Matt Ryan eat up way more yards than Zeke can on the ground. It's just simple. Matt Ryan airing it out will get faster points and faster yards, and that wasn't correct. What differences do you think will happen here that didn't happen in that Cowboys game?
Well, I think there is a lot of similarities, Jimmy. It's a pretty good point that you bring up, because if you analyze what the Dallas Cowboys do, now with the addition of Amari Cooper, they have a legitimate threat going downfield. I think Amari Cooper is better than any one of the wide receivers that's going to present a problem from the Baltimore Ravens. But you're also looking at similarities in quarterbacks with Dak Prescott, going on the road. Like, I don't really like Dak overall as a great quarterback, but he's shown that he can win football games in the NFL, win football games on the road, and command an offense. You're getting a really green quarterback that's going to go on the road here and say, you know what? We don't have the type of talent. Because all he did in that game was hand it off to Zeke Elliott, dump it down to Zeke Elliott, because Zeke Elliott's a fantastic running back. You don't have that caliber type of player from the Baltimore Ravens side. And really what this comes down to, Jimmy, is I think Atlanta on offense. Because if you watched in the football game versus the New Orleans Saints on the road, they were their own worst enemy in that game. And turnovers, I know they're fluky and you can see what happens, but they got the raw end of every turnover in that game. If they just hunker down on offense and say, look, just play a normal offensive game, I think Atlanta can move the football against the Baltimore Ravens, but vice versa, you're going to need a really good game. Now, can Lamar Jackson run for 175 yards on the road and the defense play really? Absolutely. It's the NFL. We see a lot of things happen. But I'm just looking from a matchup perspective that says, I think this is a tough spot for a rookie to get into, and I love fading rookies on the road, especially, Jimmy, when they're not getting 3 or 7 points. You actually expect the rookie to win the football game. I think Atlanta can win this one.
I think so too. Vitalis says Lamar Jackson. People are actually betting on him. My man Odar Lira out of Venezuela says Eileen Falcons. Nick O says took Atlanta. Pick 'em. Elio got the Falcons at +2 on Monday.
Oh, good move, Elio.
Beautiful spot there. Tolmore says Lamar Jackson can't throw consistently. He can't play from behind. Atlanta should be able to get ahead and make the Ravens do more than run. I like that. Big Joe Capper, going back to our last game, is on Indy at -4.5. Neil Frank says Falcons money line. They need to show some pride after some bad performances. Tomor saying Ravens offensive line is beat up. Yanis should be out. Their offensive line is not that good. Donnie, let me ask you this. There was a feel towards the under. I've seen a market move to the over. I'm definitely getting cold feet, and I may just completely take that off, not even put a question mark beside it. Do you have any feel for the total here?
Yeah, Jimmy, when I look at it, again, you're going to get, Baltimore does have a good defense. So they should slow down Atlanta. When I mean slow them down, that just means Atlanta's not going to have a field day and it's going to be like, they're playing the Saints or Tampa Bay. Because I think Baltimore's game plan coming in, similar to what it was before, is, hey, Lamar, we're going to shorten the playbook. Make plays when you need to. 3rd and 3, if it's not there, pull it down. You're fast enough to run for a first down or just not get us in trouble. That's the way I see this game. So if I'm seeing a total around 50, and I know one team is saying, you know what? All we want is the win. Both the Baltimore Ravens, move the football. Let's play good defense, and let's see where it ends up here. It just screams an under to me because I don't think Atlanta is going to be able to just go bomb all down the field and, score unlimited points. I think it's going to be a little bit closer to the vest, under 49.5 for me in this game.
Are you going to wait to see if it keeps creeping up before you pull the trigger on that?
No, to be honest with you, Jimmy, I love playing this game with you. Like, if we're looking right now and it's 49.5, I think it's more likely to be 49 than 50, in my opinion.
I think that makes a ton of sense. And I've been trying to say Falcons. Because I know they're the Atlanta Falcons. Mikey T says, yeah, Jimmy, I agree. I expect the Falcons offense to play to their potential, like they did to the Redskins, but their red zone offense has not been good this year. They haven't. And then Tony Soprano joining us says, my mother is doing better. She has stage 1 breast cancer. Thank you for your prayers. And also tell Loshak I said thanks. Tony Soprano. Tony, yes, we've been sending your mother as much possible energy as possible, and it's wonderful to hear that she's getting better. If she's anything like you, we know that she's a fighter, and she can fight this. We all believe in her. Much love to you, Tony Soprano, and your family.
Yeah.
You wanted to add in something there, Donnie?
I just want to add in, yes, I agree.
And Don Ricci says, how much can you slow them down? They scored 46 points in the last 3 games total. And Bill Butler says, Jimmy, look for Matt Ryan to feed Hooper. Ravens struggle covering tight ends and have 3 outstanding cornerbacks to cover Julio, Ridley, and Sanu. You heard it here first. Hooper will be the difference. Bill Butler, the king of props, coming in and giving you a hint of what he may be on with his props coming up this week. Let's keep rolling along to the Browns at Texans. Open Texans -4.5. On Tuesday, the market was all over the place. You could get anywhere from 5 to 6.5. Now it's 5.5 or 6s. Total opened up at 45, was immediately bet up to 48. Now it's gone back down a little bit. There's some 47.5s and 47s. Texans have won 8 straight. 2-game lead in the AFC South. After a loss at Kansas City, head coach Greg Williams' debut, the Browns are starting to roll. Back-to-back double-digit wins. The Cincy one was easy, but the Atlanta one was impressive. The Texans defense has racked up 11 sacks over the past 2 games. J.J. Watt's slow start is over, 11.5 sacks. Back in Pro Bowl form. The Browns' offensive line has not surrendered a sack in the past 2 games. Mayfield has 7 touchdowns and 0 interceptions in those games. Nick Chubb scored 4 times while rushing for 260 yards. This is not the old Browns. This is a pretty dangerous team. Yes, the Texans are rolling, but do the Browns have a shot here? I remember after Tuesday, we were leaning heavily towards the Texans. Has anything changed in the last 3 days, Donnie?
Not so much, because I think, there's a lot of Browns hype out there, and a lot of it had to do with them beating a really bad football team, a team that looks like it quit in the Cincinnati Bengals, and then you get the highlight type, not even the plays, just the highlight type with Baker Mayfield in the news because he doesn't like Hugh Jackson and shunned him on the football field. But you have to take a look where it actually, is rounding in the form. They looked pretty good against the Cincinnati Bengals, albeit it looked like the Bengals quit. They looked pretty good against the Atlanta Falcons, playing a team, off back-to-back road games out of the dome, and they did win that fairly easily. But the step up in competition games, because Atlanta's an okay ball club, Cincinnati's a really bad one, but now you're going to go down against a red-hot Houston team with a pass rush. Now, I did come across my wire there that J.J. Watt actually just got downgraded to being questionable, so something that you might want to keep your eye on. But again, we're going to get in the spot where, Jimmy, you have a rookie quarterback going on the road in the dome where it's going to be extremely loud versus a team that is leading its division and looking to basically run the table out the rest of the way and end up with a 13-3 record. How crazy that sounds. But Houston's playing really good football. How do you want to get inside a rookie's mind? Get after them with a pass rush and disguise some coverages out there. A little bit healthier on the back end for Houston. That pass rush, as long as J.J. Watt's going to be healthy playing, Jadeveon Clowney's going to be healthy and playing, Houston shouldn't have a problem scoring on that Cleveland defense. But I think that pressure is going to mount now, especially being on the road. I think the game was appropriately priced at 6. I see 5.5s are out there. I didn't think it would get to 7 points, and I don't think it'll get down to 4 or 3.5 in that range. I think it's going to end up between 5 and 6 points, and I like Houston here to win this game by a touchdown at home, being red hot. I just think they're the better overall football team.
Interesting, because what's happened to me in the last 3 days is I've developed cold feet, breaking this game down more and more. I'm starting to feel like the Browns can stay close. They've shown us a lot in the last 2 weeks, especially with their offensive line. Maybe they have a tough enough offensive line to slow down this Texans pass rush that's so dangerous. I've developed some cold feet. This was a move I was going to make early in the week, and I'm not sure if I am anymore. Eddie Euler lets us know that our man Mark Lawrence picked the Browns. That, as we know, a lot of sharps always take Cleveland. I'm developing cold feet here. I'm going to have to break this down further and keep working on this game. Do you have any feel on this total that's gone down a point or a half point since Tuesday?
Yeah, I'll keep the same, banner that I've had all season long. Cleveland, to me, outside of last week, they really opened it up, but they played a bad football team. And maybe getting rid of Hugh Jackson and Todd Haley, you changed that whole moniker up. But Cleveland, to me, early on wasn't really an over team, but maybe they opened it up a little bit. It's hard to say they're just going to race up and down the field, especially when you have a really good pass rush. So, again, if this is going to be at that 47 range, I'm going to play it again to a little bit to the under. I know it's in the dome. I know it's perfect conditions, and Cleveland looked pretty good on offense last week. But I still think, rookie quarterback on the road is going to have some struggles. And I think this game can play because we all know that Houston, as good as they can look at times, Jimmy, they've been extremely frustrating, making some bonehead decisions and plays with Deshaun Watson. I'll lean on an under in this spot here, but I don't have any real feel for the total.
Yeah, I don't trust O'Brien at all, but hey, won 8 straight, and they're
amazing.
Looking good. Can't believe it. Let's keep rolling with the Bills at Dolphins. This has got to be, I guess, with that Falcons spot, the biggest line move of the week. It opened Dolphins -7. On Tuesday, it was -5s across the board. And here we are Friday, -3.5s across the board. Total opened up at 38. On Tuesday, we had 40s and 40.5s. Now it's 40s across the board. You had that spectacular read on a very low total last week in the Bills game at 38. You wanted the over. Bills Chargers. A lot of people talked about what happened the last time they met, 10-3. It didn't scare you at all, Donnie. You went with the over, and I've been beating myself up for not following you on that action. Kenyon Drake, shoulder, wasn't on the Dolphins' final injury report. Devontae Parker is questionable for Week 13. The Bills have won back-to-back. The Fish have lost 6 of 8. God, some questionable decision-making. We're talking about O'Brien's questionable decision-making. How about Gase? You touched on it on Tuesday. They were up 24-14 in the fourth quarter. They had an 83% chance of beating the Colts when they punted to Indy at the 7:57 mark. and everything fell apart. Tannehill was not happy running the ball on that 3rd and 10 late in the game, but he did it, and he's saying all the right things in the press. He had a nice game, though, for his first game back from injury, 17 for 25, 204 yards, 2 touchdowns. Buffalo has won 7 of their last 10 against Miami. The Bills have as many TDs in their last 2 games as they had in the first 9. The Bills will need to get more out of Josh Allen through the air, but he looked great on the ground. Miami ranks 29th in the league in total defense. He should be able to deliver the goods. He did his best work against the Jaguars with his legs, running for 99 yards. LaShawn McCoy has been a giant disappointment this year. Only 426 yards on the ground with a 3.3 yard average this season. We were leaning to the over, and sometimes when I don't make a play that I see others make, and I beat myself up, I go right back to the well. I didn't want to make this bet yet because I wanted to ensure that this wasn't just a bias that I was on for missing last week. Has anything changed with you on the total? And do you agree with this line movement? Dolphins now just 3.5-point favorites.
I agree with the line movement because as you look more into this game, it looks like the Dolphins, going to be banged up at wide receiver. The Buffalo Bills do have a good defense, but I think we can just keep on getting back and climbing on these ridiculously low overs. 40 points, when you just look at it in simplest terms, Jimmy, 21-20, and you're going home with cash in an NFL football game. You saw 13-10 last night. Hey, Donnie, it can happen, 23 points. Sure, it can happen. You had the New England game 25-6 when you had Derek Anderson at quarterback. But look at the other football games, even when Buffalo barely participated. Indianapolis Colts 37-5. That's an over. You had the 25-6 game. That would be an under. Chicago 41-9. That's an over. The Jets 41-10. That's an over. Jacksonville 24-21. That's an over. And a lot of these games you're looking at the same type of MO, right? Chicago, oh my God, tough defense, not the greatest offense, 50 points. The Jets can't get out of their own way. Yeah, the Jets only put up 10 points, but Buffalo scored 41 on a decent defense in the NFL. And then Jacksonville last week, road Bortles, and nobody can get out of their own way. You're putting 37.5, 38s up there, and it almost got that by halftime this week. And you could say, Donnie, I know I saw the Jets get, 10-3 or 10-6 or 13-6, a couple weeks back. But 40s aren't built to stay under in the NFL. 1 interception return, 1 blocked punt, 1 missed 55-yard field goal where it sets you up around midfield and you go again. It's 40 points, 21-20, gets you the winner in this game. Buffalo is going to be able to score and get into the 20s. I don't think the Dolphins are that horrible on offense. They should be able to match the Buffalo Bills. Somewhere both of these teams will have them in the 20s and it'll be over. But I do agree, Buffalo going from a 6 to a 3.5 point, I think Buffalo is going to be live in this game, Jimmy.
Is it too late to jump on the Bills?
I don't think it's too late because I think it's a one-possession game. I really do. When you match these teams up side by side, especially with some of the injuries that the Miami, let's not forget, Tannehill's still not 100% a quarterback, losing Danny Amendola over the middle of that blanket. Devontae Parker, questionable with a shoulder injury. It's going to be just like the Kenny Stills show. You lost your 2 Waterbug speed guys out there. So, and look, and Buffalo plays some pretty good defense. I think Buffalo is the play. You're getting 3.5, even though you lost value getting 6. I think Buffalo is going to hang around in this football game and possibly win it. So if you're going to give me over a field goal, I think they're going to be live here.
Anthony Stevens, a new commenter on our show. Great to have you. Anthony says, Bills easy, no question. Eddie Euler says, I've noticed this trend when 2 low-scoring teams get together, they have been going over. Tomer said Dolphins should win, but they have a lot of injuries at wide receiver. Tomor says Bills totals are hard to cap. Aline makes big plays but turns the ball over. And it means Allen makes big plays but turns the ball over. I agree with you. I think that the over is a play I definitely want to make. And something I've been not doing over the last little while is not taking the acid end of a line movement. And I just feel like if I could only focus on football, I would have jumped on this Bill spot earlier, but sometimes when you're putting all your focus in NHL and NBA and all this stuff, you get caught up, and here you go Friday, and you're like, man, I missed the time to jump on it. DT Doug says the public is on the Bills, and my man Big Joe Capper likes the over. Let's keep rolling along. We get to the Bears at Giants. Open Bears -4.5. Now we have -3.5 across the board. The total opened at 45. Now we have 44.5 across the board. So a small half-point move towards the under. When we broke this game on Tuesday, we were thinking that the over might be a spot and the Giants might be a spot. The Bears have won 5 straight. They're going to have to win their 6th with Chase Daniel behind center. He acquitted himself pretty well against the Lions. Short week. They were loading the box, daring Daniel to beat them, and he did. He threw for 230 yards with 2 touchdowns. and 0 picks. This Giants defense, will they be able to do anything? They're ranked 23rd overall. Giants had a 2-game winning streak snapped in Philadelphia. New York had scored 65 points in wins over San Francisco and Tampa. Their offense was looking like they were rolling. They had a 19-3 lead over the Eagles. And then question mark after question mark. Saquon Barkley was dominating the game. He wasn't used down the stretch. Tom Marino thought that there might be an injury. We couldn't get any information on that. It was either an injury or Shermer's an idiot. Chicago defense is allowing 15.4 points per game during this 5-game winning streak. They lead the league in interceptions at 20, tied for 6th in sacks with 34. Khalil Mack is healthy again. Evan Ingram will be out Sunday versus the Bears. So is linebacker B.J. Goodson. Outside linebacker Lorenzo Carter is questionable. Donnie, Giants, over. You've had 3 days to sit with this stuff and study some more. What are you thinking now?
Yeah, you know what? Again, this is what makes the show great, because you come up and you formulate your ideas early in the week and you get a couple days to sit on it and really sit back and focus. It has everything that I wanted weather-wise in this game for a December game, Jimmy. Mid-50s, light wind, and all week long, and it opened up. I said, you know what? This is another great spot that we can take an over. But then you analyze the game of what both of these teams want to do. And Evan Ingram out, say what you want. He's not the greatest. He's not like having missing Travis Kelce or, anything like Zach Ertz for the Philadelphia Eagles. But he's a guy that's a mismatch problem that can take safeties and linebackers with him and open up the middle of the field. He gets hurt in warm-ups last week versus the Philadelphia Eagles, misses that game. He's going to miss this game as well. That's a pretty big injury, because when you look at what Chicago really likes to do, fast and physical up front, that is an awful matchup problem, Jimmy, for the front line, for the New York Giants, and for the quarterback who can't get out of the way. So now you're saying, I don't have that release valve over the middle that can help me out and drag some of these linebackers away. So now you can roll some coverages to Odell Beckham. You can worry about Sterling Shepard out there. That's going to be a problem. That's going to hinder this over. And also, when you look from a Chicago Bears perspective, the 1-game bump, which I thought he could win the football game in Detroit, which he did just enough. And it wasn't that big of a mismatch from what Trubisky puts up numbers-wise. But he doesn't have the arm strength, and that's not really going to be the game plan for the Chicago Bears. When you're in it to win it, and what I mean by that is when your starting quarterback is out, style points don't matter in this instance. What are you going to do when you go up and play the New York Giants? You're going to want to play really good defense. You're going to get after Eli Manning, and you want to make them make the mistake. You're going to see a lot of short passes again from Chase Daniel in this game. You're going to try to run the football, get some screen plays going. It's a shame that this is totaled into the low 40s, because I really wanted to take that total and go over, but I've completely backed off that now, Jimmy. I think this is going to play more to an under than an over here, and I really wanted to take the over.
Oh, God, you're right. That is so exciting and interesting to switch through 3 days. You've switched off of the over. I have cooled my heat on the Texans. I'm sure there's going to be more of that as we break down this card here. My man Spike says, love the Bears too. Big Joe Tapper just grabbed him at 3.5. Eddie Oler saying Bears are now 7-4 to the over on the season. And Tomor says, I think the value is on the total. I think this game should go under. Daniels doesn't throw down the field. Bears run defense is great. My man Comic Ricky saying Eli gives a pick 6 to the Bears. Hal Abraham says Shermer is an idiot. Tom Marino says Shermer isn't an idiot. He made Keenan look good for a year. Giants are likely tanking, or he was hurt. Hal Abraham says these are two QBs who can't throw deep. The under is gold here. That Fire TV says taking the Bears, when Nick Dial says give me the Giants. My man XX Walker 95 says Chicago's the only team in the league with more interceptions than pass TDs allowed. And Quinn Rivera says take the over in the sacks prop bet. Mack and Hicks and others will eviscerate Eli. So you've got yourself off of the over. Have you convinced yourself that there's an angle on the side, Donnie?
If I think it's going to be lower scoring there, you're automatically going to lean to the team that's getting at least a field goal or more, which you're sitting at 3.5, because the line opened, 59%, 60% of the public going on the Chicago Bears, opens up at 4.5 at some outlets, 3.5, and it pretty much stays the same. And I actually agree with it, because it's just, look, Chicago's the better team. We can all agree on that. Chicago's defense is going to get after Eli Manning. But the problem is when you roll reverse, like what are we getting out of the Chicago offense here, Jimmy? I think it's going to be close to the vest, similar to what you saw in that Detroit game where you said, you know what, let's let the defense make a play for us. We'll go up 7 late. And, at the end of the football game, when you're betting into this, you had a close game as long as Matthew Stafford doesn't implode with a pick six, which Eli Manning could, and throws that late interception into the end zone. I think it's going to be a close to the best played game. And it's crazy because when you look at the Giants again, look at who they played over the past couple weeks. They've been, if not winning, been at least competitive and hanging around. And I just think Bears will be in survival mode saying, let's go out, not make the mistake. Let's get out of here. Maybe win it by a field goal on the road. Maybe be down early, but, resurrect and play some good defense in here. I'm agreeing with the line move here with the Giants, Jimmy.
Interesting. Let me ask you a question for moving forward. Are you as impressed as some seem to be with Nagy's first 15 scripted plays?
I mean, that's the whole Andy Reid effect. You draw it up. It doesn't matter what the scenario is, 3rd and 10, 3rd and 5, 3rd and 1, as long as the play's on the script there, because they're going over, they're practiced, and it's just something like, you study for a test, Jimmy, like, the first 3 questions on the test. Once you get outside of that, that's when you get into that realm of now you have to think on your feet, and you have 30 seconds to call a play. I got to get it in 10 seconds. I love the first 15 scripted plays there, but I liked it a little bit better with Mitchell Trubisky because when the scripted plays, what they're actually used for in an NFL sense is you want to get different plays to get different looks on film already. You go to the sideline, you see the little Microsoft Surface tabs, and they used to always print out like the faxes and look. They're actually trying to get the defense into different looks to set it up for the remainder of the game. But Trubisky presents that option where you can roll him out right, left. You can see what he's doing, when that doesn't really happen with Chase Daniel. So maybe the 15-play script doesn't work as well because you can't give that many looks with the Chicago Bears with Chase Daniel.
Do you think that the scripted plays are so sharp that when Trubisky comes back, Bears first quarter, or do you get anxiety? And if you have an angle, would you prefer to have more time rather than short amount of time?
No, yeah, I don't look too much into that there. I mean, the Andy Reid playbook has always been the scripted plays, and his coaching tree is going to stick with that. They're just plays they're familiar with to give some different looks to the defense in different scenarios, but I don't look too much into that, Jimmy.
Thank you for letting us in on that insight and information. Let's move on to Broncos at Bengals. Open Broncos -3.5 on Tuesday. We had a mix of 3.5s and 4.5s. Now 5s are here. You wagers even hanging a 5.5. Now I made this part of my NFL parlay for the parlay show that I do with Peter Loshak, but I haven't bet it yet, and I'm just beating myself up over it. Broncos Bengals total opened at 42, now 42.5, on Tuesday, 42.5. And then now we're here on Friday, and there's a couple of 44.5s, but mostly 45s. Bookmaker was leading that move towards the over when we were here on Tuesday. It was 42.5, but Bookmaker had already dropped a 43.5. Let's break this game down more. We got Driscoll, 6th-round pick in 2016. He was somewhat effective, completing 17 of 29 passes for 155 yards, connected with Tyler Boyd on a 28-yard touchdown and rushed for a 2-yard TD. He's going to get A.J. Green and Nick Vigil back today. Drake Kirkpatrick will also be back for the Bengals. None have a status on the injury report, which is really nice. Though left tackle Cordy Glenn is doubtful, which means there's going to be a backup in that spot, whether it be Andre Smith, Clint Bowling. It's unclear who's going to be playing left tackle. The Bengals can't stop anyone right now. Their defense is going to be historically inept. Head coach Marvin Lewis has taken over the defensive play calling since they fired first-year defensive coordinator Tara Austin. It has not been helping. Donnie, a couple questions here. Is it too late to jump on the Broncos? I guess that's the main question I need to ask. Is it too late to jump on the Broncos?
I think it's too late to jump on the Broncos because if you look at what's going on here with the Broncos, look at their schedule. They played a really bad team in Arizona on the road, Jimmy, right? 45-10, absolutely beat the tar out of them. Then look at the next 4 games they had. At Kansas City, versus Houston, the Chargers, and the Pittsburgh Steelers. This is going to be like a deep breath where you just exhale like, whew, man, finally we made it through that stretch. Look at how easy our schedule is, and we're going to get a backup quarterback in this environment. I like what's setting up here, and I talked about it a couple shows earlier, Jimmy. When you're looking at betting the Denver Broncos, I like to see how you read and react to certain situations. I love the fact that they already went on the road against the New York Giants after playing a tough game against a tough opponent and got their doors blown off, because you can learn from that things, even from professionals. Say, hey, man, look, we throw our helmets out there versus the Jets, and we got run off the field when we were the better football team. Remember that game opened up like Denver -3, and all of a sudden by game time, Jets were a pick'em, and the Jets blew them right away. This is a really good test for them to go on the road and play a bad football team with a backup quarterback and be able to handle their business to see if they can run the table and possibly make a wild card to finish out. Broncos are nobody for me in this game, Jimmy.
A lot of people talking about the total here. A lot of people talking about the terrible Bengals defense, but Tom Marino isn't one of them. He says Bengals D has had a very tough schedule. They've been solid against worse teams. I'd lean under. What do you think about this total here that's creeped up to 45?
Yeah, it's hard to bet unders when you're looking at the Cincinnati Bengals because you do get the MO of what their defense. I mean, their defense basically rolled over versus the Cleveland Browns, who aren't the most high-flying attack in the world. You know, New Orleans, who's going to steamroll a lot of football teams, just not name the Dallas Cowboys as they put up 51 points in that game. And then you saw the shootout with Tampa Bay, but you also have to get back. It's nice that you do get back A.J. Green. If you're looking at the total here and you're a total backer, you like the fact it's going to be in the 60s. It's going to be in the 60s, Jimmy, in Cincinnati, Ohio in December on Sunday. So you're going to get some decent weather from that aspect. But overall, looking at the Denver Broncos themselves, unless the other team just gives it to them, Case Keenum's not really an over-type quarterback. Case Keenum right now is not designed with the Denver Broncos to go 25 of 30 for 350 yards and 4 touchdowns. They're playing on the road. They're in survival mode, meaning, look, we don't need style points. We don't need to get a get-right game in here. We just need to win and get back to what we do and see what we can do down the stretch. Now, when you're looking from Cincinnati, it's great that you have A.J. Green back. Looks like he's going to be healthy and ready to go. That's always a boon for an offense. But you're starting a quarterback that's not really a starter. And in some of these environments, when you're taking totals for over, you like to have teams that can return fire and have 2 really good quarterbacks or 2 veteran quarterbacks that can get after it, whether they're boom or bust like Fitzpatrick or Jameis Winston, or unless they're just a steady guy that can come in, can run the offense and get you through it. I'm not interested in totals, number one, with bad football teams, but also bad football teams starting a new quarterback. Just makes it tough for me because I'm betting a little bit into the unknown on that.
I hear that. I feel uncomfortable all around in this game and hesitant to make a move of any kind. Bill Butler says Von Miller and Chubb will have at least 2 sacks each. Take the over in sacks in this game. Eddie Euler disappointed he didn't get a better line on the Broncos. A lot of people coming in on the Broncos. Eddie Euler played Denver -4.5 and over 44.5. And then it changes. Then that fire starts to change by saying, give me the Bengals. Broncos should never have won the last 2 weeks. Pittsburgh Brew, Denver not the best road team. Mikey T, I was liking the Broncos a lot before all the movement. DT Duggs, how could anyone take the Broncos as favorites with Vance Joseph as the head coach? Tom Marino, Denver's offensive line is garbage. Injured too. Bengals should be able to get pressure. Very interesting stuff here. Let's keep rolling right along. We come to the Rams at Lions. Open Rams -9.5 at plus money. On Tuesday, there was a couple 9.5s, mostly 10s. Now we have 10s right across the board. Total opened up at 54.5 on Tuesday, 54s, 55s. Now we have 54.5, 55s, and 55.5s. It's going up. Rams coming off the bye. Rams think they might get Aqib Talib back this week. He's missed 8 games after suffering an ankle injury in week 3. A very, very important piece to this team's secondary. There'll be no Kerryon Johnson, no Nick Ballore, no Brandon Powell. Defensive tackle Snacks Harrison is looking good for the Lions, but hard to say good things about this Lions team other than that. This offense took a hit with Marvin Jones Jr. went on the injured reserve. They'd already traded Golden Tate. What a mess. Now it's up to Golladay to deliver the goods. He was the main target on Thanksgiving, going 5 for 90 yards. I don't see how you could back the Lions, and I feel like this is another spot that a few road favorites are in this week where all they want to do is get the win and come out healthy. What are you thinking here, Donnie? Rams at Lions, giant road favorite.
Yeah, you know what? It's a lot. And I don't lay double digits on the road in the NFL. Maybe 7 would be. I actually laid 7 earlier in the year with the Rams when they went up to Seattle, and that game ended up 33-31. So I wouldn't be laying double digits here, but it's kind of hard to back Detroit because initially you say, that's a lot of points. In the league, you have a veteran quarterback, a Pro Bowl caliber quarterback in Matthew Stafford, but they're injured here. If you're going to tell me, I'm going to be completely healthy at wide out, and I'll go right back to the Golden Tate decisions and Marvin Jones being hurt and Kerryon Johnson. When you continually lose weapons around you as an offense, it makes it really hard to win in the National Football League, especially when you have to trade punches with an offense that doesn't really care what your defense does. They're going to dictate to what your defense does as opposed to vice versa. Now, looking last night, here's one of the angles. When you try to get outside the box and try to find anything that you could maybe scrape together to try to add some value to a game, you saw last night, and Sean McVay is going to sit up in front of that room today. and say, guys, we got handed the gift we were waiting for. We dropped the ball when we went down to New Orleans, and it looked like we were going to have to fight tooth and claw just to stay in that number 2 seed, and then we're probably going to have to go back down to New Orleans and see if we can avenge the loss. The Dallas Cowboys rise up and beat the New Orleans Saints, which now sends that extra bit of energy through the Rams saying, you know what? The finish line is now in place. Let's go out. Let's handle our business. Let's get back home, and let's run the rest of the table and get that number 1 seed. Now, you might say, hey, Donnie, well, wait a second. All they have to do is win the game. It's not college football. I understand that. But when you're looking for motivational advantages between one team and another, Detroit Lions are done for the year. They're banged up. They're injured. Their quarterback's wife is always on Twitter trying to make stuff up about why the husband's a really good quarterback and you should leave him alone. But when you dictate and you get weapons down, and now you have the Rams coming in red hot, needing this football game, and oh yeah, Keith Talib's going to play in this game. So now you have your 2 top cornerbacks back and not a lot to do. Like you say, you know what? Kenny Golladay, let's take him out of the equation. Who exactly is beating us here on defense? It would be the Rams or nobody. But again, I'm not in the business of laying double digits. But just looking from the outside in, I think the Rams are sitting high knowing now that they can legitimately get that number 1 seed, and they might put it on Detroit here.
Sean Mick might have the play. Rams minus 6.5 first half. Focus on that. Because Bill Butler says the Rams have no reason to run up the score. Playoffs are close. They're going to rest starters if it's even close to a blowout. Eddie Euler agreeing with that. A lot of people liking the Dominican to come back to Detroit and send a message. He's been very underwhelming this year. Tom Marino says Stanford can't beat anyone without a running game. Always turns the ball over. Lions haven't had a running game for weeks. If you go back to those numbers the Lions put up on the ground, it wasn't awful, right? Didn't Blount come up for 88 yards? Yes, 19 carries, 88 yards, 2 TDs. I was actually kind of impressed with that performance. I've been disappointed in him all year. I don't think that was awful, and I don't think that necessarily equates to no running game, but I hear what you guys are saying. Donnie, what do you think about 2 things? What do you think about the total that's crept up anywhere between 54.5 and 55.5, and maybe taking a shot with the Rams first half?
Yeah, the Rams first half's not a bad idea. I mean, 6.5. You expect if you're going to take them full game, you better hope that the Rams are up, because then something's went drastically wrong. If Detroit is tied or up 17-10 at the half, you're probably not going to get the full game cover as is. So I do agree with that philosophy, and I like the first wager, saying, you know what? If they're the better football team, they're going to show it in the first half anyway. And when you get to the end of the football game and you're laying 10 points. What do the Rams really care if they're up 17 with 2.5 minutes to go and Matthew Stafford goes down the field? But also you want to look at good pass rushes that have been able to get after Matthew Stafford and that banged up Detroit offensive line. Aaron Donald's rested and ready. Let's also not forget this team hasn't played since the 19th. So they're getting that full bye week off, getting refreshed, getting ready. It's going to be nice weather. Their offense should be able to move it in that dome. And I don't see much resistance out of the Detroit offense going toe-to-toe with the Los Angeles Rams. The over, though, 55.5 is a lot of points, because to me, I don't actually see a game there, Jimmy, which, again, if you're saying, well, then why don't you just take the minus 10, where they're going toe-to-toe, like, 38-34 final. I don't see that. I think the Rams, if they win this game and win it comfortably, this has a lot of, 35 to 17, 34 to 21 type of ball game. So I think this one's probably going to trend. It's going to be right around that number. But 55.5, I'm not in the business of taking overs, especially with one of the offenses being the Detroit Lions, which I don't really know what their game plan is. They can't go up and down the field on anybody at this point. I lean toward an under, but I think the Rams can probably, if I had to make a play on it, I probably would take the Rams in the under here.
I think that might be the play, Donnie. I like what Sean Mick's on with the Rams first half, but the more we broke this game down, the more I started moving towards the under. Patricia's going to want to keep the Rams off the field for as much as possible. It's probably an impossible thing to do, but he's going to be using Blount to try and get that way. Very interesting stuff. I am moving towards the under, Donnie. I'm very, very interested in the under.
It's a lot of points, man. Yeah, I mean, look, we're not dealing with 45s. You're like 55.5. When you get into the fourth quarter, they're going to if one team's up, and again, it's the perfect time that you like to take it. I always like to look at, Jimmy, when you have a 10.5 point line, Vegas is expecting A, the Rams to win comfortably, and B, that over-under high. So if you get a double-digit lead in the fourth quarter, maybe the Rams aren't going for the kill and they're running the clock out. I mean, it's a lot of points. 55 is a lot in the NFL. It really is.
I find that more and more and more appealing as we talk about it. I look forward to breaking that down further on each of our shows moving throughout the weekend because it seems like an appealing play now. Let's move on to Cardinals at Packers. Open Packers minus 14 of plus money. On Tuesday, there was a few 14s, but 14.5s no longer at plus money. Friday, mostly minus 14s, but you still can find a minus 13.5. And you can find a minus 14.5. Total opened up at 46. On Tuesday, we had 44.5s. Across the board. Now we come to Friday. There's a couple 44s, but mostly 43.5s. I know we talked quite a bit about being interested in the over when we broke this game down on Tuesday. The Packers have lost 4 or 5 with their lone win over that stretch being their only home game, and it was an easy win. I doubled up on the Packers, 31-12 over the Dolphins, and I actually lost the first half in that. That was the week I had the Packers doubled up, and the Chargers doubled up against the Raiders. Hit 3 out of the 4, and I've almost not done that. I've not doubled up on spots for a few months now, but those were 2 that I found very appealing. We always talk about weather. The weather is going to be in Green Bay's favor on Sunday. High of 35 degrees, possibly several inches of snow. Rodgers is 16-1 in December home starts, 22-4 in December home games since 2006. He says the colder the better. It's a Western United States team playing a noon Central game. I hope it gets even colder. I hope it snows. That's playing downhill for us. They lost their left tackle, David Bakhtiari, at the end of Sunday's game against Minnesota. His availability this week is unknown. Packers would surely like to have him because the only good thing about the Cardinals is Chandler Jones, who leads the NFL with 17 sacks last season. Led the NFL with 17 sacks last season, has 11 this season. Rodgers, 20 touchdowns, 1 pick, but just a 61.7 completion rating or percentage, that ranks 28th in the NFL. I've said over the last few weeks, I think this is the worst offense I've ever seen the Packers have with Rodgers under center. Arizona got destroyed 45-10 last week. Donnie, you were on that double-digit favorite when I had cold feet because the Chargers don't usually handle double digits. They did it with ease. They did it with 45 unanswered points. Josh Rosen looks awful. Over and over again, week in, week out, he looks terrible. 32nd of 34 qualifying quarterbacks with a 68.9 passer ranking, 32nd in completion, 34th in yards per attempt, 31st in interception percentage. The only good thing coming out of the Cardinals camp is looks like Budda Baker is going to be back. What do you think now, Donnie? You've had some more time to sit with it. We were leaning towards the over, and we didn't have a side when we broke this game down on Tuesday.
Yeah, they're 2 pretty poor football teams that are going to line it up. One really poor in Arizona, and the other one, not a great NFL team. I mean, outside of Aaron Rodgers, this team is really talent depleted. I mean, you have Devontae Adams on the outside. He's a good wideout, and you have pretty much nothing else. You have 2 younger running backs who can do the job, but you also have now a banged-up offensive line. You're going to throw in 20-mile-an-hour winds, and you're also going to throw in some snow. And I know Green Bay's built for that. I know Aaron Rodgers has monster hands and, inflates the football to like it's hard as a rock, and he's going to be fine and be able to manipulate the pocket. But again, we try to look back at years where Green Bay is always Green. This isn't Green Bay anymore. I mean, having to say that as a team, they don't have Jimmy Graham, who was supposed to be brought in. Finally, we have this tight end. Jimmy Graham stinks, and he has a broken thumb, so he can't catch anything, and he can't run anymore. It's almost like just falling right off the cliff. Yes, you have Devontae Adams. Congratulations. And you have absolutely nothing else but a conglomerate of young wideouts that aren't true route runners in the NFL. And then you couple that by having a really bad and banged up defense for Green Bay. The only shame of it here is that the Arizona Cardinals are coming to town and that it's a little bit windy and the weather's going to be under. Because if you're going to hang a 45 in a Green Bay game with 2 defenses this bad between both Arizona and Green Bay, we would have a field day because it's one of those games where you finally could say, maybe Green Bay does get right on offense and can move it up and down the field. The only problem is, are you going to get the resistance from Arizona? You saw last week, Jimmy, right? 10-0 look at Arizona. They're going to spoil the party. They're going to cover the line. And they got absolutely blown out because they don't have any talent. 14 points in the snow in Green Bay, to me, is just too much for Green Bay. This isn't Aaron Rodgers of 5 years ago or the Packers of even 2 or 3 years ago. This Packers team flat out stinks. They stink. So they're laying 14. I'm taking the points all day.
Wow. Cardinals. Wow, that's exciting. Has David Johnson turned a corner in your eyes?
I don't know if he's turned a corner, but if he's going to do anything, he should be able to run wild on this Green Bay team this weekend. They have nothing on defense whatsoever that should stop much. The only problem is, as I said again, is Arizona. It looks like they're setting records for futility out here and can't do very much. But if you're going to give me a windy, cold day in Green Bay and give me 14 points, and I have a running back that might be able to do a little bit of damage and keep the game close, I'm going to lean on that all day. And Arizona is awful, but Green Bay stinks. So I'll take awful with 14 playing against the stink team in Green Bay.
Wow, that's an exciting call. I like it a lot. Cardinals. Wow, I can't wait to talk about that more this weekend. Do you see any line movement moving towards Sunday? You think if the people start talking about the snow, you might be able to find a 15?
Yeah, I agree with that. Yep, we'll play that game again. You're more likely to be 14 or under than see 14 and a half or 15 because people are just going to see the snow, the wind, and that automatically means under and take 14 points because it's not 3.5 or 3 or 7. Like you're expecting Green Bay to eviscerate Arizona. I mean, Arizona, they might be able to, the same way they did the Dolphins a couple weeks ago, but this team is so banged up and injured out there that I just, look, and what are you actually playing for anyway? I know Arizona stinks. Green Bay's not making the playoffs. They stink. So is it just Aaron Rodgers playing for statistics out here? Give me the team getting 14 points. Two bad teams, I'll take the 14.
I like it. Tom Marino says Green Bay still good at home. Must win here. I'd lean Green Bay first half. Taylor H says Aaron Jones, all they got. Devontae Adams has been great this year, but if they only have to worry about one receiver, it's a pretty easy offense to defend against. That Fire TV, though, liking Packers minus 4.5. Nick O teased it to minus 13.5. There is a 13.5 on the board if you have tons of accounts. Johnny Redbeard joining us. Man, he has been hitting hard in NFL. I follow JRB on Twitter, and you guys should too. Dom Ricci giving a final score of Green Bay 20, Cardinals 6. Very interesting stuff here. And Vegas Gun says, I like that one, Donnie. And I am finding that quite an appealing breakdown, Donnie. Let's roll on to Panthers at Buccaneers. Open Panthers minus 4 on Tuesdays. There were some 4s, but it was mostly 3.5s. Now we get to Friday. It's almost all 3.5s, but you can find a 3, but it's juiced at minus 125. Total opened up at 55.5. Then there were 56s, couple 56.5s on Tuesday. That has dropped. Now we see 54.5s and 54s. Newton and McCaffrey are putting up monster numbers, yet the Panthers have lost 3 straight. Last week's 30-27 loss to Seattle marked the end of a 10-game home winning streak. Panthers posted a season-high point total in that 42-28 victory against the Bucs earlier in the year. Is that what we're going to see again? They've listed Devin Funchess as questionable for Sunday's game. Ron Rivera told reporters that Funchess, who missed last week's game with a back injury, will be probable. So all signs point to a return. Curtis Samuel was removed from the injury report. He will be in the lineup to play against the Bucs. Back from a 3-game benching, Winston looked good. 29-38, 312 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. Deshaun Jackson is out Sunday with a thumb injury. O.J. Howard out for the rest of the year. Levante David will be back after his sprained MCL in his right knee. He has said that he won't wear a knee brace. It's unclear if he'll be able to, but at least he's coming back with that kind of a passion. Peyton Barber, Levante David listed as in, Donnie. We didn't really have an angle that we were, at least as I break it down on my notes, didn't have an angle that we were going to back on Tuesday. Has anything changed Friday? Panthers at Buccaneers.
Yeah, the one thing that hasn't changed is we always get nervous when we bet the Carolina Panthers on the road. For some reason, they just can't bring it the way they do at home. And that was a devastating loss to Seattle. They should have beaten Seattle. That was one of those linchpin games that you win that, you move forward, say we're going to make a playoff run. And that growth has been stunted after taking a loss to the Seattle Seahawks at home. But having said that, I think you're getting some value here. It's super, super square to take this game and say, because it's easy just to take Carolina. But I want to get into a couple things, Jimmy, that you just talked about, because when we talk about Tuesday and then you see what lines up on Friday, this is almost as healthy a football team as you're going to get for the Carolina Panthers all year. Olsen's back. Eric Reed's been playing, and he's going to be active this week, but he was a little bit banged up to start the week. Torrey Smith missed a couple weeks. He's going to be playing in this football game. And Devin Funchess, your biggest, best wide receiver, is back. And all those little jackrabbits that you have at wide receiver and the emergence at running back that you have with Christian McCaffrey, they rolled this Tampa Bay team with Deshaun Jackson and with O.J. Howard, who are not going to be in this football team. And I liked it last week because you're coming off the game where I thought Tampa Bay would handle the rookie quarterback and Nick Mullins at home. So the public's going to say, hey, look at Tampa Bay. They played really well last week. Maybe they can put a game together and play again versus the Carolina Panthers this weekend. We all know that Carolina, oh my God, Carolina lost a couple games in a row and they stink on the road. I'm glad that A, Tampa won last week, and B, Carolina lost. This is a healthy environment for the Carolina Panthers to play in. And one of those games where I said last week in the same thing with Tampa Bay, Jimmy, if Tampa Bay lost this football game to Nick Mullins and the 49ers at home, just make the team, force them to go to London and be London's team for the rest of their career, because Tampa Bay should never operate in the United States again. They won that game because they should have. Carolina should win this football game. Square as hell as it is, their defense is better. Their offense is better. They're healthier than the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They should win this game going away by 7 or more. And I missed the 3 a little bit earlier today that was out there. It's 3.5. I still like it at 3.5, but square as it may be, Carolina takes care of business here.
Interesting. Do you agree with this move down to 54 and 54.5 with the total? Because Yaya says, how does a Carolina game not go over? A lot of people thinking that the over is still a play. My man Johnny Redbeard, I really like this game over. All guns blazing. Nick O says Bucks with revenge. And Greg 007 says Panthers have to and should win this game, but I'm laying off them as they are a bad road team. Do you think this market move to the under doesn't make sense?
No, I think it makes sense, because I think you see when weapons are banged up and injured, like no Deshaun Jackson, O.J. Howard's out, you see what you get. And then you couple in last week where you see that Tampa Bay can actually play a little bit of defense, so 27-9 game. And we're not dealing with a 45.5. I mean, you're well into the 50s with a division opponent at 55. That's a lot of points in any environment going out there. So I do agree a little bit, because you're not fully 100% on offense. But the one key ingredient that I'm looking at here is there's a lot of players still banged up for Tampa Bay. Say what you want, but Carolina is still in the playoff picture. Tampa Bay's not. So Brent Grimes, questionable. JPP, questionable. Gerald McCoy, questionable. They're not going anywhere the rest of the season. So maybe on Sunday morning you get that surprise. Hey, Brent Grimes can't go today. What a boon that would be for the offense for the Carolina Panthers. Another thing to keep track of. But even if everybody plays who's supposed to play, Carolina's a much, much better football team overall, and they should still win this game. But looking at the total, I sort of agree with the line movement down, just because you're losing some of that deep threat bomb ability, which, again, we know that Carolina can be had by the pass. So you're taking away the ultimate deep threat in the NFL away. So maybe you can slow down Mike Williams a little bit, and no O.J. Howard over the middle, has 5 touchdowns on the season. I can see it moving down, Jimmy.
Wow. And you are absolutely right that -3 at -125 is off the board. Would you pay for a -3? Would you buy a half point?
No, because I'm looking. I always like to say, like, you never really want to have the 3.5, because it feels bad when it's 34-34 in the fourth quarter and they kick a field goal. You get angry, you lost that game. But I always feel like if I'm worried about that half point, Jimmy, I probably capped the game wrong, right? I mean, I'm thinking Carolina's going to win this game by a touchdown, not comfortably where it's a blowout, but one of those games where Christian McCaffrey goes off, Cam Newton goes off, all the wide. We've seen it, Jimmy. When this offense is healthy, even going against really good defenses, they can put up some points, and they're as healthy as they're going to be heading into this football game against a questionable defense. I don't think that half point's going to matter. I think Carolina can win this game by 7 or more.
I like it. I like the breakdown. I agree, and I like the breakdown. I have been trying not to say I agree as much as before, being made fun of on social media for it, but it's hard to not agree with Donnie Rightside. Okay, let's keep rolling. I am not excited about talking about this game. Chiefs at Raiders. Video came out today of Kareem Hunt in an incident with a woman in a hotel lobby. I started watching it, and then I stopped. It gives me just this pit in my stomach. It makes me angry. God, I just watched maybe 10 seconds of it. I just don't want to go through this again. Very, very, very extremely upsetting footage, but I don't know how bad it is. I stopped watching it. Donnie, I know this story broke when you were doing your radio show on Chicago Fox Radio. So I know people were talking about it a lot earlier in the show on the chat. I stopped watching the video. I had too much work to do. I didn't want to bother with it. It's a big, big, big story. Donnie, do you want to touch on it before we break down the rest of the game?
Yeah, here's what we're looking at here with Kareem Hunt. And it looks like as we're on the air doing this show, Jimmy, that Kareem Hunt was sent home. Now, public relations in the NFL, they like to try to wrap their head around things and get around it. And they continuously make the wrong decisions. because the public, especially in the United States and just people in general, are forgiving. If you came out with the video when it happened, wrap your arms around it. It's in the off season in February. It's a ridiculous thing that happened. So I'm not covering it up or making any say, well, I could see where it happened. It's completely wrong and shouldn't happen. And we all see when the video comes up, the public outrage comes behind it. But if you had this video in February and you knew about it and that came out, you have months and months and months to work on your PR. Maybe you suspend them for the first 3-4 games of the season and people move on from it. But now the fact that it comes out and people double down because, you tried to hide it. Now you're going to sit out. It's a terrible thing, but we're still gamblers. So this is going to play into the game and must be talked about it. Not surprising, I would be, if Kareem Hunt actually didn't make it on this road trip, because you can have a double standard because, the Kansas City Chiefs don't need Kareem Hunt to win this football game versus the Oakland Raiders. So maybe they'll take a chunk and say, we're going to suspend them until we can get around this. But we all know, Jimmy, we've seen videos come out before, the mix-in video in Oklahoma. That didn't go very well. And then Ray Rice, where the Baltimore Ravens, before the video was made public, stood behind Ray Rice. We hope he gets it together. His wife standing behind him. They made a mistake. It got a little physical. Then the video comes out where he knocked her out in the elevator, and then he can't play football anymore. If that video never comes out, Jimmy, for the Baltimore Ravens, Ray Rice is still playing, making millions of dollars for the Baltimore Ravens as we speak. That's how devastating this new day and age is once you get the video. But now looking at the game overall as a whole, let's see if this line moves, because it's been 15 for most of the week, but still sitting at 14, even with all this news coming out. And I got to tell you, I'm a venture capitalist here in football when I see an advantage to my side. They don't need Kareem Hunt in this football game to blow the Raiders out. Maybe you get a little correction here where the line goes from 14 to 13.5 or 13. And I don't like to lay double digits. I told you on the road. I think it's, a hard enough climb to win on the road as is. But they should level the boom on this Oakland team with or without Kareem Hunt. And I think you get value on the Kansas City Chiefs if it dips below 14 here.
Interesting breakdown, an interesting way to handle it. Let's talk about the football aspects of this game and move on from it. We're all going to be able to talk about all the other issues that come into it at family dinners, with your buddies, on our own shows. Let's just try and focus on the football stuff right now. Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce having big years. Sammy Watkins is out for week 13. Conley has played 90% of the snaps with Watkins out the past 2 weeks. Mahomes and the Chiefs haven't played since that incredible football game against the Rams, where Mahomes made some mistakes. I think you're going to get Mahomes in a spot where he wants to prove that he's better than what he showed. And what he's shown this year is absolutely spectacular. Third in the league in passing yardage, second in passer rating, first in touchdown passes with 37. And now he goes against a team in the Raiders that can't get any pressure on him. Only 10 sacks, the fewest in the league. Compare that to Carr. Carr's been sacked 35 times. Chris Jones has at least 1 sack in 7 straight games. When Carr has had time, he's been pretty good. He's throwing just 8 picks for the season, 6 straight games without a pick. I know he's not putting a lot of yards up, but he's got no weapons left. Carr only averages 6.48 yards per attempt, but that's because he's got no weapons. Chiefs defense has allowed opponents to rush for 5 yards per attempt. Is that something that Doug Martin can take and use to his advantage? I understand. I agree with you on the market move. I think you're right. I think we will see money come in on the Raiders right now. And I still am hesitant, even at 13, to back the Chiefs here. But you're talking about somebody who's backed the Raiders for the last couple weeks. But I hear what you're saying. Do you have any feel on this total? And will this total drop as the favorite point spread drop?
Yeah, it's another look at that. 55.5 seems like it's a common theme here, just to hang these numbers in that range. And it is a division game. They both know each other, but Kansas City's going to open it up. I think they're going to open it up on the end. It's just a matter of, can Oakland actually return fire and be able to chase it? Because I think the Kansas City Chiefs are going to score points. When you look at their last 2 home games, where mindset for the Raiders, are they tanking or are they not tanking? Jimmy, Indianapolis, they lose 42-24. If it's 13.5, like we hope it is, and I think that's where the value would be, that would be a cover. Fast forward 2 weeks, 20-6 for the Chargers, right on that 14 number again. 13.5 would cover that line. Last week versus Baltimore, I thought they played a decent football game and take away, the interception, return, the fumble, the defensive touchdown, and the special team touchdown. That game stays within the number, but it's still 17. The only win that you've had over the past couple weeks is against a lowly Arizona team they had to come back and beat. So I'm not going to give you that many points for that. They're going to be under duress on defense, and this number makes everything. The same way I just talked about those two 14-point winners, I think they can win this game by 14 points, even though it is on the road and without Kareem Hunt. But I don't want to lay 14. I need 13.5 to make my decision on this one. And we're looking at over-unders. They're a bad football team, the Raiders. And I'm not so sure that they can just go toe-to-toe. I mean, back maybe when I backed them versus the Cleveland Browns early in the season, they had a much better offense, much more outlets. They still had, a good front line. They had Marshawn Lynch at quarterback, a full complement of wide receivers. Amari Cooper was still there. You're stripping away everything from that offense. I don't think they can go toe-to-toe with Kansas City here. So that would lead me towards an under because I don't know if they can get up, Jimmy, 24 points, 27 points to engage Kansas City and get this over.
I think that's a nice breakdown. Nice breakdown. It'll be very interesting to watch how the market handles this Hunt situation, and it's just too bad that we have to go through this stuff again. It's just awful that this video has been out for so long. I think you broke it down very nicely, and it just makes the whole Chiefs franchise look bad because this could have been handled, and who cares if it takes a little bit of excitement away from the season. At least you handle very, very important things, and there are extremely important things in life that don't involve football, and this is one very, very important one. It's just an awful thing that we have to witness this video, and God, it's just awful. Okay, let's move on to the next game. Jets at Titans. Open Titans minus 10.5. On Tuesday, we had 9s and 9.5s. Now Friday, the market's all over the place, Donnie. You can get anywhere from 7.5 to 9. Total opened at 41. On Tuesday, we had 40.5s and 40s. Now 40.5s, but you still can find a 40 if you look hard enough. Bowles declined to name his starting quarterback, Donnie. I don't know if you have clear information that we've got. He says, I've kind of decided, but I'll make it public on Sunday. Will Darnold be there? He is questionable, but as you said, and you talked about this a month ago or something. I remember you talking about how with the Jets, these questionable players always play. Jets have won 5 straight. Remember when Darnold put 42 points up against the Colts? Man, that was a long time ago. Since then, he threw 7 picks and losses to the Vikings, Bears, and Dolphins. During their skid, the Jets are averaging 11.2 points per game with 1 touchdown or fewer in the last 4 games. Is it possible that they want to go back to McCown after he looked much, much better in his second game? Is that possible? What are you thinking here, Donnie? Jets at Titans.
Yeah, they're going back to McCown. Here's the problem I have, though, Jimmy, because sometimes in the NFL, it's just by attrition that you get worn out. And I'm not happy with the way the Tennessee Titans are playing football. Played 2 tough games, lost them both. And now you get the Jets. It's not a really rah-rah exciting atmosphere. Maybe your playoffs, you're like slipping away. But I do always get a kick out of Jimmy when you brought it up where they're not going to tell you who the quarterback is. Like it matters. Like it's Joe Montana or some bum off the street. I hope Joe plays in this game. Does it really matter who's going to play? Sam Darnold coming off injuries, a rookie quarterback on the road playing against a decent defense, or the old man that's double in age, it seems like, of what Sam Darnold is. I don't think that's going to make any difference whatsoever, but the old man's going to start this football game. But look at what they had to go through for the past 5 games if you're taking a look at the Jets, Jimmy. And this is just that effect where you just play teams that are tough, physical, fast, and good week after week after week, and you wear down. You play the Vikings, you get hammered 37-17. Then you go on the road to play the Chicago Bears, and you lose by double digits 24-10. Then you play the Miami Dolphins on the road, and nobody can score in that game. You put up 6 points and get dropped by a touchdown. Then you play Buffalo at home, which Buffalo was a mockery of the NFL, and they hang you out to dry 41-10. Then you play the New England Patriots, and you lose that game by 14 points. Now you're going on the road. Titans are nobody. I mean, what do we like? You want to talk about all the calluses you build up over the last 5 weeks playing these tough physical teams for the most part, and then you're going to have to go on the road and play a team that wants to be physical again. I don't know how much fight the Jets have left. I know you're going to say maybe Quincy Enunwa was coming back. He's healthier. Robbie Anderson's a little bit healthier. But there comes a time at the point in the season where you just get beat down so many times and you go on the road. What's left to play for? But for next year, I don't think they've quit on Todd Bowles. I just don't think they're as talented. Titans are nobody for me just because the Jets are so worn down.
A lot of people liking the Titans here, but not Nick O. Likes the Jets plus 10.5. I don't know you would have to already bet that or bet that on. Excuse me.
You got the 10.5. Congratulations. Yeah, geez. Woo.
Yeah, you must have got that on the opening line. Nice work if you did that, Nick O. Theodore McIntosh agrees, says it will be McCown. I think they're saving Darnold as head coach bait, whenever Bowles gets the axe. Sean Mick liking a defensive or special teams TD at plus 225. Tom Marino saying Titans aren't a good team, but they should be undervalued after getting destroyed on national TV. I'd lean Titans first half. That's an interesting play. Titans first half, especially if you can find the books that are hanging a 7.5. What do you think about this very low total at 40 or 40.5, Donnie?
Yeah, it's funny because you look at I usually would say, it's a 40-point game. We're just going to auto bet the over. And sometimes when the Jets step in the way, let's go through the Jets, Jimmy, playing against a decent defense. 17, 10, 6, 10, 13. And the Titans don't exactly say, hey, let's run really fast and get out to a big lead and continue to throw the football. So this, usually would be an auto bet for me. I sort of take a step back because I don't see where the points are actually coming from in this game. And I think Tennessee is just going to say, we're going to beat you up and spit you out on the ground. 27, somewhere in that range, 27 to 10-ish, because I think Tennessee is going to be able to win this game by double digits. But it would surprise me if the Jets got into you need the Jets to get into the 20s here if they're going to be competitive and get that total. I don't know if they can, Jimmy.
I don't know if they can either. Joe Gemarino joining us saying, where is the whale? Sadly, the whale capper won't be joining us this week, but will be with us next week. Let's move on to a very exciting game, Vikings at Patriots. Another spot where I am kicking myself. Open Patriots minus 7.5 at plus money on Tuesday. We had 6s, couple 5.5s. Friday, all minus 5s. But before I started this show, Bet Online was hanging a -4, which I found extremely interesting. Total hasn't moved off of 48.5. Xavier Rhodes questionable for week 13, but he's fully expected to play. Zimmer said there's a good chance he's going to play. Everyone expects him to go. Stefon Diggs, questionable for week 13. Diggs returned to practice, so he returned to practice on Friday today, so he's expected to play. He's on track to play. Cousins averaging 299 yards, 22 touchdowns with 7 picks. Thielen and Diggs are monsters. Both players had 8 receptions and a touchdown in that win over Green Bay. Minnesota advanced to the NFC Championship last season behind that amazing defense. League low 15.8 points per game, ranked number 1 in fewest yards allowed. Now we had the Everson Griffin situation where he's dealing with some mental health issues earlier in the year. This unit has not been looking very good, but looked very good against the Green Bay Packers. Is that an easy thing to do? I think actually after your breakdown of the Packers, we know that's an easy thing to do. Minnesota's defense is allowing 276.6 yards since week 4. They sacked Rodgers 4 times. And they're going to be going up against a very difficult offense in the Patriots. Edelman, Gordon, Gronk, all healthy, making those Brady short passes to James White very dangerous. Also, Brady brings in Sonny Michel, who looked so good last week, 21 carries for 133 yards. Donnie, did we miss the opportunity to take the Vikings with 6 points? Is there still value at 5 or even 4?
Yeah, I would have liked to bet. Look, Xavier Rhodes looks like he may play in this football game, but I don't buy into that. Even if he suits up, we saw it a couple weeks back where they played the Detroit Lions, Jimmy, and he had that ankle injury. He didn't know if he was going to play, and he exited in the second quarter. When you have a hamstring injury, you can't hide it as a cornerback because the New England Patriots know that. So they're going to run streak patterns and say, all right, we'll see how good that hamstring is. Why don't you run 10 straight patterns, 40 yards as fast as you can down the field and try to keep up. I don't think he's going to be a major factor in this game whatsoever, and I think it might be to the detriment of the Vikings because you might be down a guy. Hey, Xavier, can you go? Sure, I'll go. And he's down in the first quarter. Now you're short a defensive back when you could have added an additional one when you maybe deactivated him and activated somebody else. But more than the side itself, because I do think, Jimmy, you're on to something here. The Vikings are a really live dog. The Vikings are as healthy as they've been on offense. I know there's a couple nicks and bumps in practice. Stefon Diggs not practicing here and there, and Adam Thielen still battering the back and the calf. But a healthy Dalvin Cook in this situation. The one thing that we talk about a lot when we talk about the Minnesota Vikings is you need a nasty pass rush to get after Kirk Cousins, because Kirk Cousins will buckle. He'll throw you the pick six. He'll be off on his reads. But when you can't get to him, the same way you saw last week in the Dome versus Minnesota and the Green Bay Packers, he has time to throw. They have weapons. Kyle Rudolph's a decent tight end. You have two really good wide receivers. Now you have Latavius Murray and Dalvin Cook in the backfield and a healthier offensive line. And let's face it. This isn't your New England Patriots team back in the day with Teddy Bruschi and nasty pass rushers coming off the edge. They're not a great team at getting after the quarterback, and that plays into what Kirk Cousins and the offense for the Minnesota Vikings like to do. And let's not forget again, when you're looking at totals and you're looking at dome teams going outdoors, look where Vikings struggled 2 weeks ago, Jimmy. Really cold weather in this windy city against a nasty pass rush for the Chicago Bears. You're not going to get that this week. You're going to get close to 60-degree, high 50-degree temperatures at 4 o'clock and not much wind, optimal passing conditions. And if we take a look from a New England perspective, as healthy as they're going to be on offense, nobody's on the injury report for the offense. It's amazing. Tom Brady removed, Gronkowski removed, all wide receivers going to play. And look what they've done so far this year at home, Jimmy. 27 points versus Houston, 38 points versus Miami, 38 points versus Indianapolis, 43 points versus Kansas City, 31 points versus Green Bay, all at home. It doesn't matter who they're going to play against on defense. They're going to be in the high 20s, low 30s, and Minnesota will be able to return fire in this game. I love the over. Got it at 48.5 earlier in the week when I gave it out on the roundtable. Sits at 49.5. There's going to be points in this game. Both these teams will play close to 30 points, and you'll be able to get that total.
Wow, sorry, I didn't realize that it had jumped up the over. I thought it was still at 48, and you are, wow, okay. Mistake there by me. Sorry, I thought it would stuck at 48. 48.5, excuse me. Tomor agrees, says, I think the best value is on the over. Pat's offense has been much better at home. Vikings secondary beaten up, even with Rhodes back. Bill Butler says Josh Gordon is going to roast Rhodes with a bum hammy if
there
he
you
plays.
Go.
But that Fire TV loving the Patriots in this spot. Theodore McIntosh saying Pats time of year. My man Moshe Bogart saying can't go against the Pats in December. But Nico says, I see the Pats kicking a lot of field goals here. Tom Marino saying Vikings are still without Sendejo and their slot corner who played well. Interesting stuff here. Vikings at Patriots. Donnie loving the over. That seems like a nice spot to be in. I have not last week against the Jets, but I was on the under 46.5. But before that bye spot, I thought the Patriots were sure over and lost it. And that's probably why I haven't jumped on it already. Just a vividness bias. But nice breakdown, Donnie. Vikings and Patriots liking the over there. I think we're all taking notes on that one. Now we move to Niners at Seahawks. Open Seahawks plus 11, or minus 11, at plus money. Now minus 10s. On Tuesday, minus 10s across the board. Friday, minus 10s across the board as well. But Heritage is hanging a minus 9.5. The total opened at 43.5 and was immediately bet up to 46. And it's just stuck there. 46 is across the board, but right before I came to the show, bookmaker hung a 46.5. Niners have lost 2 straight, playing with a quarterback who began the season on the practice squad. We talked about this on Tuesday. Why? This story's not going to end happily. Put Beathard back in. Mullins looked like a rookie, and we broke that game down nicely at Tampa Bay. 2 interceptions, sacked 4 times. Now it looks like Marquise Goodwin is not going to be there because of personal issues. Nobody really outside of the franchise knows what's going on right now. He's the team leader in touchdowns and tops for receiving yards by 49 and wideouts at 339. Matt Breida still continues to be excellent. 738 yards on the season, but if Marquise Goodwin isn't there, pretty easy just to pack the box and say, okay, Mullins, try and beat us because we're going to stop Breida. Sherman's coming back to Seattle. Niners rank 11th in NFL in total defense, 10th against the run, and the Seahawks lead the league in rushing. And they have 3-headed monster in Carson, Davis, and Penny. Each have rushed for 300 yards apiece. Seahawks ran for just 75 yards against the Panthers, just 2.7 yards per attempt, but they came back and won a big game over the Panthers in Carolina. Now hold the tiebreakers over the Panthers and the Cowboys. Russell Wilson, another great game. 339 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. Lockett and Moore both go over 100 yards. Over the last 9 games, Wilson has thrown 20 touchdowns with just 2 picks. I've never seen him play better. I'm watching this line. I'm seeing Heritage hang a 9.5. Wasn't going to make a move earlier on Tuesday. I think the Seahawks smash them in the mouth now. What are you thinking, Donnie?
Yeah, I'm on the same time. I'm on the same wavelength for you, Jimmy. But it's interesting to see Seattle because they're not really built for the heavy cover. They're built for like that 3.5-point game, maybe a dog where Russell Wilson can make some plays and get them back into it. That's typically what they do. But sometimes the other team can force your hand on what you can and can't do because coming into the game, I think the 49ers do have a decent defense. They have some talent on the defensive side. You know, Richard Sherman's playing at a high level of cornerback. They have some athletes in the middle, some pass rushers that can get after Russell Wilson. But the Seattle offensive line has played much better as of late. And I can't help but think the complete shift in what you actually do as a team, as opposed to saying, Russ, just go around there and play street ball and try to make some plays. This infusion of the read option with a couple different tailbacks that can carry and hold the weight and hold the linebackers in place where you can pull it and pass, you can hand it off. Carson has been a godsend. I mean, he's been amazing running the football. Rashard Penny's showing up. And they have, Mike, I forget the third running back's name. It's slipping my mind right now. But they have 3 running backs that can really handle their business, and they have some slippery wide receivers. I can't get out of my head here, Jimmy. You brought it up when you set this up. Why is C.J. Beathard not playing? Like, Nick Mullins is undrafted, showed me one decent game against a horrific football team, but hasn't shown me much since. And then you're going to start him on the road. Is it what C.J. Beathard is, and there's no reason to get him killed out there, but you might want to see what Nick Mullins is moving forward. Maybe you can trade him or keep him as your third back, or maybe third quarterback, and he's in your plans. But if you're going to take away, again, his top 2 weapons at wide receiver and go into a really hard atmosphere where, let's not forget, Seattle's rejuvenized now. We just went on the road. We beat Carolina. Maybe there's a silver lining and we can get in the playoffs. That crowd's going to be amped up. And again, Nick Mullins showed me nothing in an environment that didn't have that many people cheering even loud down in Raymond James Stadium. And now you're going to one of the loudest environments in the world. This isn't going to end well for their offense. They're not going to be able to hand the football off to Breed and just say, hey, run up and down the field. Let's score some points. I agree, Jimmy. I think they get boat raced in this game.
I think so, too. And although the total at 46, or that 46.5, the bookmaker just hung, is appealing, why not just hammer the Niners team total under? I guess the problem is with such a big spread, it's going to be so low to begin with. I don't even know what it is exactly. Would you prefer the full game under or the Niners team total under? Or neither?
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to say, what I'm trying to say is Seattle's not going to run away from you. Like, if the game is, let's just say 21-3 Seattle, you know what Pete Carroll's going to do? Let's just pound this rock and run read option and eat up 8 minutes on the clock and kick a field goal, and we'll just go home and be happy. Because they're not the team that's really that front runner that says, I'm just going to extend this lead to 41-3 and we're going to crush them. 46 seems like a lot of points because what are we actually getting out of the San Francisco 49ers? Let's take a look at their wins, Jimmy. If you just remove, let's just say, the Oakland Raiders game, the 34-3 game where Mullins played well, 10 points, 15 points, 23 points, and 9 points. And now you're going into an environment with a young kid that's not used to commanding an offense and not being able to hear the snap count with 5 or 10 seconds left due to the crowd noise coming in. Just sets up as a disaster here. They'll play it real close to the vest for the 49ers this week. I don't think they open it up, and I think that's going to be a detriment. I think Seattle can win and win comfortably here.
Yeah, I agree. CenturyLink's going to be nuts. I think Theodore McIntosh puts it best. Mullins turning back into a pumpkin. Nico saying, take the under. Let's roll into the Sunday nighter. Man, this is going to be an exciting football game. Chargers at Steelers. Open Steelers -3.5. Stayed for that Tuesday show. Now Friday, the -3.5s are usually at plus money depending on what bookmaker before the show started was hanging a -3 at -120. Total opened up at 53.5. Then on Tuesday it had gone down 51.5, 52s. It's crept up a little bit. There's a couple 52s, but it's mostly 51.5s. Connor had a key fumble in that game last week, but he's been great this year. And the Chargers' bad news keeps coming. Thankfully, Bosa's back, but injuries to a key linebacker and then Lugit. So they lose Perryman, then they lose Lugit. Now Melvin Gordon will miss 1 to 3 games with a knee injury. So Austin Eckler got to step up, and there's No reason why he can't. Austin Eckler is a hell of a back. Rushed for 409 yards, averaged 5.8 yards per carry. He's going to be the man now. Rivers was excellent against that terrible Cardinals team. He set 2 NFL records. He completed his first 25 pass attempts of the game and had the highest completion percentage in the contest. I think that was Sam Bradford's before. Good thing to wipe that guy off the book. We do not want to read about any of Sam Bradford's exploits in the NFL. Guy can't win a job over Josh Rosen. Let's never talk about him again. How about that? Now, he had to have a big game coming off a bad game with very questionable decision-making in that loss to the Broncos, but he's had a great season. Now we come to Roethlisberger throwing 12 interceptions, tied for second most in the league. He threw 2 critical ones against the Broncos. Turnovers have really held the Steelers team back. Imagine how incredible their record would look if they didn't have him. They've given up 19 turnovers. Only 6 teams have more turnovers, and opponents have only committed 12 turnovers against Pittsburgh. So Steelers sitting with a -7 turnover differential and still have a nice record at 7-3-1. Just 3-2 at home, Donnie. I remember on Tuesday you were liking the Steelers. Looking forward to hear your breakdown on this Sunday nighter.
Yeah, nothing's changed here. I had some pretty good mojo going for it in the past couple of weeks on Sunday night football games. I think I had a pretty good read on this one as well. A lot of things you say, Jimmy, makes sense here. I mean, look, running backs aren't the end-all be-all in the NFL, but Melvin Gordon is a switchblade back there. You need him to run to pick up on 4th and 1. He's got that. You need him to run and maybe bust one on 2nd and 5 where he hands it off the middle. He can do that. How about a swing pass in the flat to Melvin Gordon and just bust a long play 30 to 40 yards downfield? He does all that, makes the offense that much easier to run. Austin Eckler is great, but Austin Eckler is great in doses where, you can spell Melvin Gordon. Now you're going to ask this young kid to get in the football game and, run up the middle or outside, and sometimes that Darren Sproles effect where he's good in bursts. 4 to 5 to 6, 7 touches per game. Now you might lean on him to get double-digit touches. Maybe he fumbles. Maybe he can't pick up the short yardage. But more than that, I just like the Steelers in this spot. The same way last week I thought that they would be in a tough spot going to Denver. You pull out a miracle down in Jacksonville. You take a deep breath. You come home. Then you got to go play a team that really levels up the competition and plays tough. And to me, if you take the score out of it, the Steelers really outplayed Denver in that football game, but they didn't win it. You can't make turnovers. You can't go into the end zone or be on the 1 yard line and throw a pick, or you can't fumble out of the back of the end zone. You take those 2 plays back. Denver loses that football game. The Steelers win. Maybe have a little bit different MO, but B-Bane's going to miss this game. Denzel Perryman's going to miss this game. Lugit's going to miss this game. You're a little bit down from San Diego. Your West Coast team. You're coming east. It's going to be some decent weather and conditions, but this is a get-right game for the Steelers because outside of the first couple games they played at home when they were injured, banged up, and not playing good football in Kansas City and Baltimore, they ran Atlanta 41-17. They crushed Cleveland 33-18, and they barrel-washed 52-21 Carolina, and then you went on the road. They need this game. They know they need this game. The price is going to be cheap. I'm holding out for a 3. Maybe I can get it. 3.5 I might have to settle for, but I think the Pittsburgh Steelers, not in a runaway type game where it's just like start to finish, the Steelers are blowing them out. This is one of those games where they slowly increase it, Jim. Like maybe up by 3 at the half, maybe up by 7 at the end of the third quarter, where maybe one of those drives by Phillip Rivers, you stop late, you pick up a 7 to 10 point victory. It's the Steelers in this game. They'll win and cover here.
I like it. Adam Frendo's play of the week is the Steelers. Giant bet on them. Nico, my favorite play of the week, Pittsburgh -3. Tomor saying Chargers have a good record, but the only respectable team they beat is Seattle. Lugit, Perriman out. Steelers should be able to run easily. Theodore McIntosh saying Chargers heading into a buzzsaw. Tomor saying Eckler is decent, but he's not the receiver out of the backfield. Gordon is, exactly the way you put it as well. Kobe Valentine says Pittsburgh probably my best bet. Sean Mick found that -3 and jumped. Greg 007 says Connor's not looked good the last 2 games, although I'm still leaning Pittsburgh. Robbie Tagalo says Pitt starts out quickly, Chargers start slow, taking Pitt early, first quarter and first half. That fire only looking Steelers. Says -3.5 is a small price to pay this week. Scotty Rock forever. Steelers -3.5. Donnie, this total opened at 53.5 and's gone down 2 points at some books, 1.5 at others. What are you thinking here for the total on the Sunday nighter?
Yeah, I always like to champion Phillip Rivers as the death by 1,000 cuts offense, and now you take a big part of that offense, the engine in Melvin Gordon, which when you stick that football into Melvin Gordon's chest and you pull it back out, those linebackers are thinking that's a running play, and that really opens it up for wide receivers down the field and play action. That's no longer to be there. I think a lot of short, quick passes for Phillip Rivers in that offense going to lead to that time turning over. I'll lean towards an under in this spot here because I just think styles make fights here. I don't know if they're going to really open it up on both sides, but I think the Steelers can win this game and win it. I don't want to say fairly easily because, as I said, it's not going to be a runaway. It'll be a slow build for the Steelers to get that 7 to 10 point win. But 51, I agree with the line movement. 52.5, it opens it up. Jimmy, 51.5 now. I agree with the line movement moving down.
Bookmaker has taken off that 3. That 3 is gone now. If you
Damn it. What's going on? Yeah, come on. I'm holding out for that, people.
It's gone.
Keep
it was
up
here.
There,
it was here before the show started. There is one at Bet365, Donnie. Unfortunately, Americans can't use Bet365. That's at minus 120. Wow, so it's gone. Oh, wait, no, I got it back here again. Bookmaker just switched.
I have a couple ones. I'm looking at like I have a couple outlets here, minus 3.5 plus 100.
Yeah.
I would wish it would get the 3. It's probably not going to get there. So 3.5, with maybe a plus 100 would be there. But then again, I always like to say, Jim, maybe you didn't cap it right if you're really worried about if that's going to land on 3. So.
I hear that. Tormerian says Rivers is decent, but Chargers are a shit organization. If you look at Roethlisberger's stats, Rivers stats, they are similar. Roethlisberger has been strong in big games. Well, that's a Sunday nighter. A lot of people loving the Steelers. Very, very few. Actually, nobody. The only person that said there was anybody on the Chargers was Eddie Euler, saying that street catcher guy with 12 in a row picked the Chargers. Other than that, not hearing anybody on the Chargers. Scotty Rock forever says Steelers win by a TD. And that brings us to the Monday nighter, Donnie, in a questionable football team. The world champion Philadelphia Eagles at home against the Redskins. Open Eagles minus 7 to plus money. On Tuesday, there were 6.5s across the board. Now we're at Friday, mostly 6s, a couple 6.5s. Total opened up at 43.5. There were a couple 43.5s on Tuesday, mostly 44s. Now it's gone up, 45s and 45.5s. I asked you, I said, can the Eagles make a run to the division title? You were at least leaning towards the Redskins. You had no interest in the Eagles on Tuesday. I'm very excited to hear your breakdown on this. The NFC is tight. Can McCoy lead this Redskins team with extra rest and extra preparation time? Things appeared very bleak for the Eagles. Down 12-0, down 19-3, but they rallied. They came back. Ertz looks absolutely incredible. Already broken the Eagles' record for most receptions in the season by a tight end, by your man Keith Jackson, 81 in 1988. Ertz looks amazing, but that's the only guy that looks amazing for the Eagles. Donnie, has anything changed in the 3 days since you were liking the Redskins to cover?
Redskins going to cover this game, and it has a lot of the feel, Jimmy, the way I felt last week versus the New York Giants. And that line actually rent and roll reversed a little bit, opened up in that same frame, 6.5 in that range, and was bet down. I expect the same. Look, Colt McCoy stinks as a quarterback. I don't think he's very good. But there's something, it's not about really what Colt McCoy and the Washington Redskins can do. It's about the Eagles' offense and what they really want to do. Because you're seeing the young kid at running back, and it's all fine and good. He ran decent against the New York Giants. This is a much better defense that you're going up with the Washington Redskins. And for all intents and purposes, the Eagles' offensive line that was macho last year and beating people up, not so much this year and susceptible to pressure by the front four, which Ryan Kerrigan's always given the Philadelphia Eagles problems. He's going to be a menace again here on Monday Night Football. I see the same type of game. Maybe not the Eagles coming back from a double digit, being down, but there's nothing that leads me to believe right now as watching the Philadelphia Eagles that they're competent enough to say we're going to win it in the first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, and fourth quarter. Watch us pull away and dominate here. Now, they played some tough defenses down the stretch. I understand that, and they've been whitewashed a few times out of the New Orleans game. The Eagles are a decent football team. They're going to be able to beat Washington because it's Colt McCoy and it's the Washington Redskins on the road. You should win this game in your own house when technically it still means something. Dallas is going to end up winning this division because I think they're overall the better football team and the healthiest football team in the division overall. But this just has all that feel, Jimmy, to me again. 24-20, Philadelphia Eagles get this win, but don't get the cover. An ugly game, and we'll be saying again through the telecast, man, when are the Eagles going to be able to do something? They just can't move the football. That's just the way I feel, but I think they get the win. They just don't cover the line. Same thing as last week.
What do you think of the movement on the total? It's crept up. It's 2 points higher or 1.5 points higher at almost every book than its opening line. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I could say it because, again, we're looking at, 50 degrees and Monday Night Football in December in Philadelphia. It's crazy that we're not, in the 20s or the 30s or at least a nice crisp game. You'll get a little bit more wind than you had last week, but it's 40, it's 45. They did it last week versus the Giants in a game that looked like it was going to get the over and completely crashed in the second half. I could see it going over the total because it's a lower number. But I need to see something out of the Eagles here. Maybe it goes over because Colt McCoy throws 2 interceptions and Carson Wentz holds the ball too long and he gets strip sacked, fumbled like his MO is this year. Maybe he can get over. But just that weather conditions, 50 degrees at kickoff with a Monday night game, probably should go over the total.
And you like the Cowboys to win the NFC East. Is that right, Donnie?
Yeah, I said it last week coming into it. Like, even before the Cowboys had actually beaten the Saints in the game last night, they're healthy, they're more talented, and they're better on defense right now. You can't win if you're banged up, you know? The Cowboys are better than the Eagles right now, and better than the Redskins, and better than the Giants.
Well, you still are the world champion Philadelphia Eagles, though, yes, Donnie. So
we have that.
It's a nice thing. It's a nice ring to it. Donnie, it is an absolute treat working with you. We had no buys this week. A longer show than we've ever had, Donnie. A
there
longer
you
show,
go, man. We're making it.
Without the whale capper. A longer show. What a battle it is on this show, breaking down all these games. You are an exceptional NFL handicapper. It's such a treat to work with you, Donnie. Everybody on the chat, thank you so much for all your great insights and inspiring us to study hard. You guys do such a great job at that. We absolutely love working with you guys. Stick around for my show with the legend, Mr. Peter Loshak, or Lotus Loshak. That's in 18 minutes. And then all weekend long, watch Donnie's shows on SBR in the morning. They are hot shows. They will keep you locked and loaded for all your weekend action. Donnie, my man, will you put a bow on this show and send us into the weekend?
Yep. Before I really send it off, I just want to say, there's a lot of stuff going around with sportsbookreview.com, and I've met Jimmy personally. We've hung out. He's a great guy. We're real human beings behind the scenes and the facade that sometimes we put on and we're happy. But having said that point, there's a lot of shows that are moving around on the channels, and that's what happens with ESPN, with Fox, with CBS, with whatever the network is. And I can't have to say it. Thank you for coming in here because we get a pretty good following here on the Audible and an unbelievable chat box. But when I see some shows come and go at this point, that's just the nature of the beast. Nobody's mad at anybody or what shows get canceled. Everybody that comes on the Sportsbook Review channels has a passion for what they do. And the one thing I want to say is whether it's Low Shack in the Bag show, whether it's my Right Side of Campus or Audible or Pre-Snap Reads, whatever goes on the channels, when you see some of these things move on, support the shows that you like. Reach out, retweet, send it around the channels because it's not even about me and Jimmy being on the air and having a good time, or me and Jeff or Peter Loshak or anybody that appears on the channels. There's a lot of people that work behind the scenes, and the more shows, the more workers, the more times that we have. So I can't stress enough, you don't have to send us money. You know what I mean? That's not what it's about here. But if you support and like all the channels and what we do at Sportsbook Review, send a retweet, send a like, come in and say hello, because the more people that watch the shows, whether it be on Rewind or watch it live, the better we can do and the more shows that we can put on here at the channels, and it makes sense to do it. So having said that, again, me and Jimmy have a great time here, and it's a wonderful life to live talking on air about sports. It feels like it's stealing candy. We've gone for an hour and 43 minutes right now, and it feels like just a snap. That's how easy it is to work between me and Jimmy and the fun we have in the chat box and what we can talk about. So just to keep it short and sweet, support the channels. If you like the programming, come and say hello, retweet it. Help us keep us in business here, for us on the air and for everybody for behind the scenes. But having said it, in the NFL, what another great week again, Jimmy. Thanks for spending it with me. Tuesday, we set the table. Friday, we lock it in. There's some really good reads out there that we can make some money on this weekend. Shame the Whale Capper couldn't be here, but he'll be back on next week with us. Support the channel, support SBR. Thanks for tuning into the Audible. Cash your ticket Sunday, and me and Jimmy will be right back here on Tuesday, starting another week of NFL football. Thanks, Jimmy, for being the host today. I'm Donnie Rightside. Take care, folks. Enjoy your weekend out there.
Oh, Donnie, that was beautifully put.
You got it. Hey, man, good luck to you, man. Your show's really popular, Low Shack in the Bag.